Could the relationship between Jimmy Butler and Pat Riley be even more fractured than we had previously thought? At least one former Heat Hall of Famer thinks so, and we'll break down what he said on today's Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your everyday podcast on the Miami Heat. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube, Odyssey, or your favorite podcast app, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. I'm Wes Goldberg, editor at allyoucanheat.com, here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat Media members. The best way to support the show is to leave a 5-star rating and review on your podcast app and subscribe on YouTube. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We'll get to what Tim Hardaway had to say about Jimmy Butler and Pat Riley's relationship and some ideas for Jimmy's Media Day appearance in a second. But David, I want to start with something that I've been thinking about. More and more, the NBA is based less on the big threes that we got accustomed to here in Miami and more on sort of tandems, big twos, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, Jokic and Murray, LeBron and Anthony Davis, etc. There's a lot that goes into that. Including the new salary cap structure. But going into this season, where do you think Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo rank in terms of the top duos in the league?
Ooh, that's kind of tricky because I think it all depends. And we saw this, I think it came out on Wednesday afternoon. Like they ranked the top number 2 options across the NBA. And I was a little surprised. I can't recall the exact source there.
Okay.
They ranked Bam Adebayo 4th.
Okay.
Anthony Davis, Jaylen Brown, etc. Those were like the top 1-2 options in terms of the better number 2 options around the league. But Bam was 4th. And that caught me by surprise a little bit. But when you take into consideration his overall game, what he does defensively and everything else like that, it makes a lot of sense. At the same time, you're looking at perhaps a pretty large lack of production from Bam in terms of his points per game and things of that sort. Like, yes, the defense is certainly there at a high level, but the scoring, the offensive output isn't quite what it should be when you're looking at the better number 2 options around the league. But you also have to kind of turn turn the lens a little bit and look at Jimmy. Like, where does he rank as the best number one option in the league? Yeah. So you've got a number 1 option in Jimmy Butler who might rank what, 15th? 16th as your best number 1 option. I don't know.
You could argue that there's number 2 options that would rank higher than Jimmy Butler as a number 1 option. In the case I saw the piece that it was Yahoo Sports. They had Anthony Davis number 1, Devin Booker number 2, Jaylen Brown number 3, and Bam number 4. I mean, you could argue that like as number 1 options, like Devin Booker would be maybe a better number 1, at least just from a scoring perspective. I don't think there's actually any arguing that Devin Booker is a better number 1 scoring option than Jimmy Butler. And I understand when we talk about number 1, number 2 options, option is kind of a weird word to use because you think immediately like, okay, who has the ball and then who gets the ball second. I like to think about this exercise in terms of duos as, two-way basketball. Defense matters. And I think in this Yahoo rankings, defense obviously matters. That's why they have Bam rated as highly as they do. And by the way, Anthony Davis rated as highly as they do also. But, it is interesting. Because when you talk about duos, I think we do tend to look at the number 2 option more than we talk about the number 1 option, right? But the number 1 option can lift the number 2 option. For instance, Jamal Murray's never been on an all-star team. He's never been made an all-NBA team. And yet the Jokic-Jamal Murray duo might be the best in the NBA based on the fact that Jokic is just, in that duo, you might have the best player in the league in the duo. So he kind of just lifts Jamal Murray. And obviously, they do great work in terms of their 2-man game and their chemistry, and that stuff obviously factors in as well. But I do think that Bam is maybe, and again, I agree with Yahoo here, maybe as good as any of the number 2 options in the league. It just feels like Jimmy Butler should also, at this stage in his career, also maybe be your second best player, at least offensively.
Right.
And I think that's why, by the way, the Heat have been looking for guys like Kevin Durant, Donovan Mitchell, Damian Lillard, more as sort of that prototypical sort of number 1 scoring option.
That's true. And I wonder how long Jimmy will be looked at as the number 1 option. I mean, I know we're basing this on his playoff success from a couple seasons ago. Obviously, he missed last year's postseason. And the numbers, while they were slightly better than Bam's during the course of the regular season, his overall lack of availability, I mean, he's not much of a number one option for much longer, at least in my opinion. So it's going to be an interesting development over the course of the season to whether we see Jimmy kind of return to that form and be a true number one option that can still have a high level of output on a consistent and regular basis.
Yep.
Or whether or not Bam starts to assume more of that responsibility himself. And I think both of us think that that's likely to be the case. It'll be a little bit of each. I think Jimmy should be a little bit better. I think Bam will be a little bit better. And as such, this might be a question that we could answer a little bit more clearly at the end of this season, because right now it's just I would rank them probably, if you're looking at them as the number one, number two option, I don't know, maybe 20th best. Like it's
that's tough. So I basically made a whole list of the number, like the top duos in the league. And based on what we think, and you're absolutely right, we'll know this. Well, we're going to know this at the end of the season. That said, the exercise is to try to predict it. So this is not even based on past performance or anything. It's top duos in the league that we think this season, what they will be. I actually, considering, again, we're not talking about only offense here and scoring. Two-way play. Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo are so efficient, right? They don't really turn the ball over. They're both awesome defensively. If we did the exercise of, and maybe this is a different show, but like top defensive duos in the NBA, Jimmy and Bam are at the top of that list, or near it at least, at the very least. So. But in terms of two-way play, I just think that I've made this point before. I think they've accomplished a lot despite the fact that they don't fit together pretty much at all. Defensively, they fit together great. Offensively, they don't fit. Like they do not fit. You would not put these two players on the floor offensively if you could help it. But despite that, they've accomplished a lot. And I think part of that is because they're so, they take care of the basketball. They're smart. They screen. They do all those little things that are outside of just scoring 30 points per game. But I have them in the top tier. I was a little surprised by myself. I am in the top tier. So I'll tell you who my top tier is. I didn't want to rank them because it feels like impossible to go, this is the number one, this is number two. But I had Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And this is not in order. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, LeBron and Anthony Davis, Luka and Kyrie, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and either Chet or Jalen Williams, whoever you think belongs there, De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis, Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, and I had Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. I don't think that you could say that any of those duos are like far and away. You could argue that maybe marginally better than Bam and Jimmy, but I don't know that you could argue that they're just like far and away better. I don't look at any, like, there's no LeBron and Dwayne Wade in the league.
Embiid and Tyrese Maxey.
So I had them in the next tier just because
Whoa,
I need. Well, there's Embiid's health issue. I think that's part of it. I also don't know. Is it Embiid and Tyrese Maxey? Is it Embiid and Paul George?
Either one.
Sure.
Either one is better.
I just need to see it a little bit more. Like, same with Giannis and Dame. Like, talent, they should be in the top tier, but they don't work well together. I just need to see it more. Like, the chemistry part here matters to me.
It's a top duo in New York.
That's great. Jalen
Randall and Brunson.
Yeah, and they showed a little bit more chemistry last year, but New York is more like ensemble to me. Like, that's like all the Villanova guys. I also had Halliburton and Siakam in that next tier. I had Kawhi and James Harden
and Irving.
I had Luka and Kyrie in the first tier. Sorry if I skipped them. I meant to put them in. And then I had Steph and Draymond in tier 2, just because of how old they are.
Well, now it's Steph and Draymond. Yeah, I guess that makes more sense now. I mean, it is. I don't know, man. I what about Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns?
I struggled with them. I think they were maybe top duo in the league last season, one of them. I don't know. I'm still not buying it. I think that team is sort of dragged by like defense, and then like Anthony
John
Edwards
Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr.
Where did I have them? Oh, I left them off. You're right. I had them written down in my big list, and then I forgot to put them into a tier. They're tier 1. They deserve to be tier 1. I mean, when they're healthy, they win 50 games a year.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's really hard to gauge this particular duo because you mentioned the fit together. Defensively, obviously, they work at a very high level, and the level of success has been almost diametrically opposed from how good you view this team and everything else. Like, that's what makes this team, to me anyway, so interesting, and why I can never count them out. And I know I sound like a Heat apologist, and I who knows what will happen at the end of the season. It could be another quick out. It could be another play-in. It could be missing the playoffs altogether. It could be a lot of another injury-riddled season. But something about this team doesn't make sense, and it's impossible to quantify, even as we're trying this exercise to do so, because they just find a way to win and have found a way to win. They haven't won a title, but they've achieved incredible postseason success over 3 of the 5 seasons, and that's not nothing. And so you have to take that into consideration. But when you kind of try to balance that and what's that worth and trying to project what if it's possible to duplicate versus what they've been in the regular season, which has been fairly mediocre, and I think even they'd admit that.
Yeah.
It's really impossible because you're kind of counting on magic, something.
Right, playoff
something
magic.
Unquantifiable. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that Heat culture stuff, just like, yeah. I mean, look at the duos we talked about. All of them fit well together. Like, part of the reason they're on this list is because they fit well together. The only ones that really don't are Durant and Devin Booker, and just the sheer talent level of that is just so overwhelming. Like scoring talent that they can't help. And Durant kind of just fits everywhere anyway, so it doesn't matter. And like when you've got 2 good shooters, the chemistry just tends to work out anyway, even if the on-court fit and who has the ball and whatever doesn't really work. But like Jimmy and Bam are not floor spacers, and I don't care if Bam shoots 1 or 2 3-pointers a game, and I don't care if Jimmy's shooting 2 a game. In 2024, that's like 0 a game. Like that doesn't make you a floor spacer, right? We want that to happen. We're looking forward to that kind of thing happening, but it doesn't make them like nobody's going to respect them the way that people respect Kevin Durant or Devin Booker from the 3-point line. It's just not going to happen. So it is hard, and yet all of that, despite that, I had to put them in tier 1. Maybe I'm rosy-eyed here, but we'll see. All right. Well, speaking of Jimmy Butler, we got a bunch of Jimmy Butler topics to get to on today's show, including Tim Hardaway, Miami Heat legend, Hall of Famer. Does he have some insight into Jimmy Butler and Pat Riley's relationship? We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And all you've got to do is pick more or less on the 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you watch the winnings roll in. You can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. And PrizePicks is the best way to get on the action in sports in most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. So download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA, and get $50 instantly when you play just $5. That's a code LOCKEDONNBA on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. We'll be right back. Oh, wait. And we've also got another sponsor of today's show. We're brought to you by Game Time. We've talked about Game Time before, but they're even better because Game Time's got a new feature called Game Time Picks. That makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Let's say you want to go to a concert, let's say you want to go to a game, a comedy show, you name it. Game Time's got you covered, and they filter out all the fluff so show you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. That could be arduous and boring. You don't know if you're getting the right deal. Well, with Game Time, you know right away because they've got their all-in pricing to let you know what the total is upfront. You know exactly what you're paying. No surprise fees at checkout. They've got their lowest price guarantee, and Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And you can also see exactly where you're going to be sitting with your seat views, where you get a panoramic view of your seat from a venue maybe you've never been before in the app before you buy. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off for your first purchase. Terms apply, but create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA, and you get $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's Game Time. We'll be right back.
Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen of the day. The best way to support the show. Leave a 5-star rating and review on your podcast app. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Like the videos on YouTube. Leave a comment. Where do the Miami Heat's duo, Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, rank among the top duos in the NBA? Let us know. All right. So Tim Hardaway was not expecting to hear from him this week, but he went on the All the Smoke podcast, and he was asked about the Miami Heat going into the season. And here's what he had to say about the relationship between Pat Riley and Jimmy Butler.
Your Miami Heat boys right now. Y'all finished the season off kind of rocky. rough press conference. The Godfather came out and, put his foot down. We ain't going for this shit. This is my show, and whoever gonna be here because I say so.
I was waiting on that. I was waiting on that.
Yeah.
I knew something was gonna happen. I told some people, I said, Pat gonna talk this year. Pat gonna talk this year. Especially, he's tired of a lot of things that's going on with the team. He's tired of Jimmy Butler.
Well, and Tyler Hero too. He been babying Tyler Hero for a minute, and he just staying hurt. He ain't showed up yet either.
Right.
So I think he was talking to him and Jimmy.
More so, if Jimmy didn't say nothing, about other teams and you're not playing, it would have been all right. But when you came out and said that, he's probably talking about both of them. But I think he really talked
directly
about
to a star.
Yeah, directly. Yo, dude, you haven't played in a lot of games this year or last year, and especially in the playoffs. I need you to play in the playoffs. If you play more than 70 games, we wouldn't be in play-in games 2 years in a row. All right? I need you to play. You need to take care of your body. You need to be in this gym taking care of your body. Not the gym, but the weight room taking care of your body and getting yourself straight. And I was waiting on that. We all understood. All Miami Heat people understood where Pat Riley was coming from.
David, I do not detect any lies in anything that Tim Hardaway said. What about you?
No, I think it's pretty spot on. And I know it sounds anecdotal, and this is Tim Hardaway coming from the old school 1990s mentality and what Pat was like then, but I don't know that Pat now is very different than what Pat was like then in terms of his overall approach and the way he thinks. Maybe he's softened a little bit with age and administering duties to other people and letting the other people kind of handle parts of the workload and everything else like that. But when it comes to his personal assessment of a player and what he thinks of what you should and shouldn't do, I don't think that's wavered one bit. And I think we saw that when we talked to Pat Riley. We were there in that press conference where Pat said he was frustrated, and clearly so. And he let that be known that you should not talk when you're not playing and you're not there. And you don't have that right as a player who missed these games that were crucial, that missed so many games during the course of the regular season. So I think there is frustration. I think there is a little bit of, damn it, Jimmy, we need you to be. We just talked about it in the first segment. Jimmy as a number one option isn't much of a number one option for most of the regular season. And that being the case, I can understand why there would be frustration there. So I think Hardaway certainly is as plugged in as anybody. He's still good friends with Zoe, and Zoe's as plugged in as anybody. He's part of the organization. He knows everybody
next
there.
to Pat Riley for every game.
Yeah. So
if anybody knows what Pat Riley's thinking, it's Zoe.
It might not be a text message. I don't know if there's some kind of group chat or something like that.
It might not be anything. Like Tim Hardaway might not have any intel on this. He doesn't need to. We were at the press conference. We saw it when he said it's a soundbite to say Pat Riley is tired of Jimmy Butler, but you listen to the context of that full soundbite, and it's why I wanted to play the whole thing. Maybe I don't know that he was reporting anything. I don't know that he was saying Pat Riley can't wait to trade Jimmy Butler. That's not what he's talking about. I'm sick and tired. Like, he's not saying that. He's saying what everybody saw. We were in that press conference. Every time Pat Riley was asked about anything, Pat Riley could have been asked about what he had for breakfast, and he would have said, "We need to be more available." And when it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out who he's talking about. In fact, it didn't because he mentioned Jimmy Butler by name. And the fact that he was frustrated with him. So when Tim Hardaway is saying that Pat Riley is tired about the way Jimmy Butler has approached the regular season, that he thinks Jimmy Butler needs to play more games, that if Jimmy played 70-plus games a year, then the Heat would not be in the play-in tournament, and they would be in the playoffs, and they would be better off for it, I detect no lies, and Pat Riley said all of those things in the press conference. So none of this to me is any breaking news, right? It's just sort of a soundbite.
Do you find it interesting that while Steven Jackson was trying to kind of say, that Pat was kind of digging comments at Tyler Hero, Tim was kind of like deflecting that a bit, like, yeah, obviously Pat wants to, Tyler to step up, but this was really, and I think that we got that sense too. Like,
correct.
I don't think he's been babying Hero. I think he didn't try to justify it. He said, look, he's a little injury prone and he's had some bad luck with injuries, etc. What was the comment? Fragile? Wasn't that the word?
He's a little fragile. Unfortunately, he's had some bad luck with injuries.
So I think that's part, to me, that kind of stood out. It's like, yes, Riley was certainly trying to say we want Tyler to be more than what he is, but we also know what he is. But we know who kind of stirs the drink around here. We know who's capable of what. And in terms of Jimmy, he's capable of more, and he didn't give us more. And so that's why I when some people listening to this show were like, oh, there they go again, criticizing Jimmy. It's not us. We're not just criticizing Jimmy. It's the front office that
Pat
expects
Riley did
more
it
from their
publicly.
superstar.
Exactly. He said he. So when Tim Hardaway says that he's frustrated with it, I don't know why this made the rounds. Technically, I think I do know.
It sounds
why.
like a direct
sound
shot.
bite,
That's
right?
what it is.
Pat Riley is sick of Jimmy Butler, or tired of Jimmy Butler, or whatever it was. Like, yeah, yes, we knew this already. Pat Riley said it, and like you said, this is not us saying it. We get accused of trying to trade Jimmy Butler all the time. That's not what we're doing. We're just telling you, Pat Riley's sick of what Jimmy Butler has been doing over the regular season. If you want to keep going on believing not you, David, the general you, in terms of a portion of the audience, that the regular season doesn't matter, go ahead. You could think that. I'm just telling you. Pat Riley doesn't think that. He made that very clear.
Have we ever done the what if? Like, I mean, I know it hasn't. There's no point in it. I mean, the season was such a, as you said, it was a lost season from even before it started. The idea that, let's say Jimmy plays 5 more games, which is certainly within the realm of possibility, and they win 3 of those, and they avoid the play-in tournament completely. Like, we've never followed that what if path, but like, again, we have no idea. Does Terry come back from injury a little bit quicker? Jimmy avoids injury altogether, right? Because we're never in that play-in tournament game against the Philadelphia 76ers. He never gets hurt. Do they avoid Boston until later rounds?
I mean,
they face up against the Knicks or something like that. Like, I mean, who knows what this playoff run could have been?
Knicks, like Cavs, whatever it would have been. Yeah, I mean, they could have.
A lot went wrong.
Yeah.
But it's not that hard to connect the dots and kind of pin a lot of what happened last season and the failure that they had to Jimmy's lack of availability. And I think that's 100%. What we saw. That's what boiled over with that frustration there. So
they're sick of being in the play-in tournament, and they know. Like you already said it, and it was such a great point. Like, you can wish that Tyler Hero was something more. You can wish that in year 2, Jaime Jaquez takes a leap. You can wish that in year 3, Nikola Jovic takes a leap in internal improvement and development, all these things. We have seen Jimmy Butler be better. We know he can. We don't know that those other players could be better than what they are right now. We expect that they can, but we've never seen it. We have seen Jimmy Butler be better and him purposely just not. And I think when you talk about Pat Riley being still old school in approach, he is the guy who was around, Magic Johnson, Patrick Ewing, Dwayne Wade, Shaquille O'Neal, like these guys who gave their all every single night, who played like superstars every regular season game that they could. That's the old school approach. Hey, if you're on the court, you're playing 100%. Go out there. And I don't think that Pat Riley's against a little bit of load management and figuring some of this stuff out and being ready for the playoffs. But there's a balance to strike. And Jimmy Butler has struck that balance before. He didn't strike it last year. He wasn't available enough. And that's why Pat Riley was tired of it. And that's why he expects more. And it's why Tim Hardaway said what he did. And that's why Pat Riley basically said all that stuff in his end-of-season press conference. All right, coming up next, speaking of Jimmy Butler, speaking of press conferences, showed up as Emo Jimmy last year to Media Day. I don't know if that set the stage for a little bit of a ridiculous season from Jimmy Butler. What does he show up as this Media Day? And can that set the stage for maybe a little bit more of a serious regular season going forward? We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, and it's #1 for a lot of reasons. Sometimes you get a hunch in the middle of the game. You can go check out the latest stats, or you can view live play-by-play, and there's so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Make sure to go over there today. That's FanDuel.com. We'll be right back.
Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen of the day. If you're new to us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on your favorite podcast app. So I saw these odds posted online. I think a lot of Heat fans did about Jimmy Butler, what he will look like on Media Day. So we remember last year it was Emo Jimmy, the year before that Dreadlock Jimmy. Always a good time. So according to whatever these odds are, I don't remember who posted these, but bald is the #1 odds for Jimmy Butler to show up on in Media Day. Just full bald. Then you've got dyed hair, afro, mohawk, twisties with a low fade, a buzz cut, emo hairstyle again, braids, a man bun, dreadlocks again, the pigtails Mickey Mouse hairstyle that sometimes he goes with like a handful of days, during the regular season, and then the Jimmy Neutron. Do you know what the Jimmy Neutron is?
I think it's Duncan Robinson's hair, basically, right?
So Jimmy Neutron has like a big, like it looks like the
Curl,
top
right?
of
He's got his-
like a soft serve.
yeah. He's got the little spit curl. Yeah. Oh, okay. I see. Like a little wave up top. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, a lot of different options. But you know what? The thing that we're kind of overlooking here is that I think it goes just beyond hair. Like, obviously, the emo look was, this was a whole rebranding, a whole new identity that Jimmy was creating for Media Day. The year before, yeah, it was the locks. You wrote about it for The Ringer, an in-depth story there. But that was mostly hair. But I don't know. Like, Jimmy's trying to send a message. And so if I'm looking at what he does this upcoming season, I'm trying to think of what that message is, and I'm kind of torn between two options here. I think one, he could go, and I was like nice to see it on the odds listed there. I think he could go full afro, kind of as a throwback. That he's going to be a throwback to his former self. That he's going to be a throwback to a grittier time period in NBA history, perhaps. A little bit more of the enforcer type. He's going to go a full 1970s, early 80s fro. That's a possibility. I'm actually leaning towards nothing. No nonsense, no big deal. He's going to go in there and he's going to be Jim Butler from day one. And I know he hates that, but I think that's kind of the approach of this season is like, you know what? The games are all over. I know he loves having his fun. He loves to poke the bear a little bit. I just don't know how he's going to do it because I'm trying to think like what's his statement? What's his approach to this season?
No, so I was thinking two things as well, right? So I think there's the chance that he walks in number 22 Miami Heat jersey. That's it. And he's not, by the way, he is not getting rid of his hair. That dude loves his hair. He is not shaving his hair. It's a bald buzz cut. That's not going away. Now, maybe a bald cap or something like that, perhaps. Again, that would not be where I put my money.
He's going to look like Megamind. He's going to have like this huge, like bunch of hair.
He loves his hair. He loves playing around with it. He loves doing different things. He's not getting rid of the hair. Now, maybe like the afro makes sense, right? Because you could blow that out and then you could fix it later. I was thinking similarly to you. Is it just all business and nothing, or does he or does he make a statement with his look that's not all business? And he does like poking the bear. I think he ate a big chunk and full piece of humble pie this summer when he didn't get the extension. And he basically, he played his hand, right? Like he tried to. He leaked it to the media. Hey, the Sixers want me. There's multiple teams want to give me the max extension. I want that max extension. I expect it. And then Pat Riley said, hey man, it ain't happening. And a couple weeks later, what happened? He swallowed the piece of humble pie and he said, all right, I'm going to play this year and I'm actually going to try again next summer. I don't know that after having done that, he'll walk in and also just be like company man, right? I'm not sure. I think he's going to want one more like little, like I'm still me, I'm still Jimmy Butler thing. And so could he go like rebellious a little bit? And not necessarily rebellious against like the front office, but like, could he just go full like hair metal? Like 80s like hair metal, or like punk rock, like kind of.
So the mohawk you think is an option? I don't think the
mohawk or just let like dreadlocks again, but like dye them like hair metal, like blonde or something or whatever, like a little bit longer hair, and then just like the like a rock and roll Motley Crue like cut off or something like like that, like shows up with a guitar, like just like a Fender.
I thought about it. I thought about it. I went that way too when I was thinking about it originally. I was thinking he's going to go in there being rebellious. Right. And when I think rebel, I think two things. Either you've got your not the beatniks necessarily, but you've got your rebels. You've got your you've got James Dean with the red jacket and Rebel Without a Cause. Like that was so symbolic for an older generation. Mm-hmm. Will he wear a red jacket and going to have like mousse in his hair? I don't know if that's even theoretically possible. I don't know if he's going to go there. Is he going to go like like with a leather trench coat, kind of like a disenfranchised person or something? Or will he go like maybe full road warrior or something like that? Is he going to go in there and be like
Mad Max?
Yeah,
just go.
Yeah, exactly. Full Mad Max regalia. Just go in there with like leather studded jacket, eye patch, something. I don't know, like a piercing of some kind. I don't know. It would be like just full leaning into the sense that I'm still a rebel and I'm still me. I don't know.
I'm gonna make some noise this year. Like, don't count me out. Yeah.
Right.
Something like that. I could see it. We're going to do a whole prediction episode tomorrow about what we expect to happen on Media Day. Media Day is on Monday. We'll be there. We'll be interviewing some of the players, posting videos from there. But yeah, we're going to do a full prediction of what we expect to see, and more importantly, what we expect to hear. We're actually going to do some of our own like kind of mock press conferences and just try to guess some of the quotes that'll come out of Media Day, off the wall, cliche, and everything in between. So make sure you check that out. But for now, we're done today. Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on your podcast app.